Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing fantastic and that you're all having an absolutely wonderful day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. There's a lot of kind of heavy news in the news today. So if at any point I become lightly unhinged and or get a little bit angry, just, forgive me in advance, because the amount of what I would like to call, and forgive my French here, stupid news is it's like a bit too much now. Like it's kind of just all over the place. But right. Let us continue on. Coinbase is in the news today quite heavily. Coinbase, the largest crypto exchange within the US, is announcing that they're going to be putting an increased amount of focus on international expansion in general. Coinbase, over the last 5, 6, 7 or so years, has done everything probably within their power. I mean, more or less. I'm not going to give them too much leeway here. To try and make regulators within the United States understand that Coinbase was meant to be like the golden child. Coinbase, I believe, got started around 2012, roughly around the same exact time that the Mt. Gox crisis happened. The entire point of Coinbase was, of course, to be a cryptocurrency exchange, but also they wanted to be like a safe haven for regulators to see that this new burgeoning space wasn't like Mt. Gox, wasn't like the other things. There was a regulated place that people could go to buy their cryptocurrency. Back then it was just Bitcoin in a blah, 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 blah. We have the paperwork kind of space. Since then, the top 4 crypto exchanges have gone on this really intense crusade to try and get paperwork and to try and get regulatory clarity. And for some reason, Gary Gensler continues... I was going to say something really weird. He continues being himself. That's the long and short of it. I mentioned back in good old 2017 and 18 that Coinbase needed to do a more like Binance level of approach where they simply tried to move around the world. Like I said before, Coinbase and more so Gemini as well, the Gemini crypto exchange, I think that they believed that because they were the first movers within the United States, that they would get all the actual treatment. They would have the red carpet rolled out for them, and the regulators would say, hey, you guys were the first, you're the most amazing and awesomest, and therefore you get all the rules and regulations. You can kind of do whatever you want. That became abundantly clear that was not going to be a thing in 2018, 2019. And this is when we saw Binance actually become the #1 crypto exchange because they expanded everywhere around the world, while Coinbase and Gemini did not. Kraken also expanded around the world, and that's how Kraken also became a major cryptocurrency exchange. Over the last couple of years, and if you want to really narrow it down, since the beginning of this year, it's been a very long and short, quick year, we saw that Coinbase found themselves in a lot of regulatory and legal trouble because the US SEC claimed that they had been doing something wrong basically since the beginning. And I told you all before, I think that is absolute nonsense. I don't care for Coinbase, but I find it a little extremely difficult to believe that this cryptocurrency exchange that's been around since 2012, that they did nothing to make sure that they were contacting regulators and or trying to become legal. So the US SEC saying that they've been, purposefully being illegal all this time is just a bit of hogwash. As they realize that they are no longer the golden child of the United States, they've now continued to announce really weird things. I think in summertime, for those of you who missed, I think it was summer or spring, Coinbase announced this year that they would be leaving the US if they didn't receive proper regulatory clarity. And that was like an ultimatum. It wasn't like a blah, 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 blah. It was like, no, we're tired of it here. We're going to leave. And I was like, no, you're not. Like you would never, because you have so much fear that at some point Gary Gensler will come up to you and say, okay, now bend the knee and kiss my ring. And then you would get the like, it's just not going to actually be a thing. So Coinbase has made multiple attempts this year to try and scare regulators. I don't know what they thought they were doing, but it was absolutely nothing. So now Coinbase has come out openly saying that because of everything that's been going on, because of all the problems, now they're going to be focused on international expansion, which they probably should have done back around like 2016, 2017, because Coinbase would probably be even a lot larger than Binance. But, it's like a too little, too late kind of thing right now. They're putting an increased focus on international expansion. According to the company's vice president for international policy, his name is Tom Duff Gordon. And I quote, he says, "We want to bring 1 billion people into crypto. We're all about economic freedom," end quote. Those are the things that kind of really like rub me the wrong way. You're not into economic freedom. You're into economic freedom for yourself and for Coinbase. You bringing 1 billion people into crypto is not going to necessarily mean economic freedom for all these people, especially when you run a centralized cryptocurrency exchange who constantly remits and gives the information of their users to governments around the world. That sounds like the exact opposite of economic freedom to me, like the literal exact opposite of what economic freedom might actually mean. And also, here's a kicker. You know that it's estimated that it costs roughly around $6 billion to end world hunger. 6 billion. One decimal, 6 and then billion. To actually end world hunger. And I've seen multiple times that multiple billionaires are like, oh, we're just trying to help the world. You know how you can really help the world? Gordon said during a Zebu Live 2023 conference in London. He said, and so scaling internationally is kind of getting more and more important for us, particularly given where the U.S. is, end quote. It took you this long to realize that you were not favored, that you were being strung along since 2012, and now you're figuring out a way. This is why, listen, the people who, what's the term? I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a light reason why I kind of like people like Jack Dorsey and even what's the other guy? These people basically work in silence to try and bring cryptocurrency to the masses. These people are into Bitcoin, but I can say cryptocurrencies there because this is how adoption ends up spreading. When you say openly that you're trying to help 1 billion people, you're not actually trying to help 1 billion people. You realize that you had the opportunity to expand to another 1 billion people 7 years ago. You didn't have the chance to do so. So now you want to talk about economic freedom. You know how economic freedom starts? If Coinbase had a section of their website that actually like educated people on economic policies in their country and around the world and told them exactly what inflation was, what interest rate hikes were, and why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are actually important and how they should be decentralized and how people should actually take their money off of Coinbase if they actually want some type of proper economic freedom. How many of you think that Coinbase will do that? That they'll actually try and educate people on their website? Last year, oh gosh, this is terrible. This is even recently. Coinbase unveiled their new initiative, terrible. It's called Go Broad, Go Deep. They need like proper marketing. I don't know who does the marketing for them. I volunteer as tribute. I will help you in any way possible. Because you could have used any other phrase in the English language except for go broad and go deep to signify that you're trying to like expand around the world. This is their new strategy for international markets, which recently saw the company registering as a cryptocurrency exchange and a custodian wallet provider with the Bank of Spain, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and they also got one, I think it was Ireland as well. I'm not really sure. Singapore being like the main go-to place that a lot of cryptocurrency companies are trying to expand into now. Apparently Singapore has all the paperwork. Everything is done. Apparently it's not easy, to get into the market. But if you have all the paperwork, there's no real friction when it comes to doing that. So without reading any further and getting myself really annoyed, Coinbase, and this is also piggybacking off of, remember I told you earlier this year that Coinbase is doing like really weird stuff, how they had two initiatives so far this year, where they were trying to rally you, the cryptocurrency community behind them, to contact your senators and your congressional leaders to tell them, hey, it's time for cryptocurrency regulations. And I'm like, Coinbase only calls on you when they need something. It's a very weird company, very, very weird company. Yeah, cool. Coinbase has announced that they have a new international first mentality. Let's see how long that lasts. Because if good old Gary Gensler walked into Coinbase and said, I will give you, Coinbase and Coinbase alone, all the regulatory clarity that you need and only you get it, but you can't expand any further outside of the US, what do you think Coinbase would do? That's the Coinbase, go broad, go deep. Terrible, go deep. You could have even said like, go expansion or expansion go, or like expand around the world, or what? Oh, okay. All right. Let's move on. Also in news that people desperately, I mean, like there's so much desperation in this space. It's like, it's gross that people desperately tried to make really, 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 really big news. So with the collapse of FTX and Alameda and Genesis and Terra Luna, and there was another one. Was it Voyager? I don't. There's a whole bunch of stuff that collapsed over the course of the last 2 years. Binance came out and announced that they were going to have something called an Industry Recovery Initiative, or IRI. No one calls it that, and people barely speak about it. The idea was that, and it's like a double backhanded approach, is that if you as a cryptocurrency company got into trouble, you could basically go to Binance and they would evaluate the situation, and they would then give you some of the money from the fund to kind of get your company back on its feet. A lot of people assume that things like this are kind of done with like as a friendly gesture. When companies, when banks, when institutions give money to other companies to help them to come out of bankruptcy or whatever situation they might be in, it's usually done like to gain equity in that company, like to gain a piece of it. You simply don't say, oh my gosh, that bank across the street is collapsing. They need 1.4 billion. Hey, we should all join hands and give them money. No. Like they come together and they say, hey, we will help you out. And therefore we will own a new, we will make sure that you, come out of the mud, but we now own a portion of your company, which is something that I also had to mention before, because a lot of the articles earlier this year were like, oh my, isn't Binance so nice? And it's like, no, they're a company. They're trying to continuously make more money. But the point of the recovery fund was to basically, we saw too many collapses within the cryptocurrency space at the exact same time, and regulators did not care for it. So if you have an industry recovery fund and a company collapses, as opposed to it being dragged out for 18 weeks in the news, give them the money immediately. And therefore, they're no longer bankrupt. It doesn't have to enter the news, yada, yada, yada. You kind of get the idea. So we have brand new numbers for this entire industry recovery fund, and people for some reason are acting like the sky is falling and everything is like completely weird and wrong. A recent Bloomberg report has revealed that Binance's highly anticipated industry recovery initiative, initially seen as a lifeline for a struggling market, has fallen well below expectations, which it has not. Despite committing a hefty $1 billion, the fund has only managed to invest a mere $30 million, surprising and worrying many. No, it has not. The entire idea of the industry fund was not to give everyone who wanted money. Honey, The entire idea was that if you are a company that we know that we can save to make sure that we as a company and this venture capital fund can make our money back to acquire a company that we see promise in, therefore we will give you actual money. It appears that only, air quotes, because 30 million is a lot of money, that only $30 million was actually given out to a number of companies. I don't know if we know the name of the companies, doesn't really matter. And everyone's like, what happened to the rest of the billions of dollars that was out there? It was simply that the money wasn't chosen to be allocated to every single company who collapsed. Like imagine, for instance, if you have a decentralized crypto exchange called Pancake Sushi Toenail Swap, and they're around for like a good year and a half, but you know that they're complete garbage. And then they end up collapsing and they go, oh my gosh, we need $45 million to be able to recover. Binance and these other companies will look through their portfolio and go, you collapsed because you're garbage. You don't simply dole out the money to everyone to try to make sure that everything doesn't collapse. You could create a company in the cryptocurrency space, make a coin, make sure that it collapses and say, oh, we need $38 million to recover. The IRI was created in response to a string of market crashes, including Terra Luna and FTX. Binance's CEO Changpeng Zhao introduced this initiative with the aim of stabilizing the rocky cryptocurrency market. With support from big names like Jump Crypto and Polygon Ventures, the goal was to financially assist struggling companies and spark investor interest. Here's a tweet or something. Okay, really weird. Oh, someone named John Morgan on Twitter wrote, Binance CEO's industry recovery initiative fails, but it didn't, and you need to learn how to read better. Despite strong backing and a $1 billion commitment in their stablecoin, the IRI has only been able to distribute $30 million because, once again, you don't just give money out to everyone. Why is everyone so obsessed with the idea of Binance and Changpeng Zhao falling or failing or losing or not doing well? The fact that they even announced that they had allocated they were the only crypto exchange to do this, by the way. Binance is still and was then the only cryptocurrency exchange to announce that we should also have proof of reserves. I think there's like 2 or 3 crypto exchanges who now like show like some of their balance sheet, but Binance was the first one. Like, why does no one ever talk about like what Binance like actually did as opposed to like just their failures? There was something recently as well that I forgot what Changpeng Zhao did. It was some like normal human activity, and people were like, should he be doing this? It's like hop off, like literally, like what's wrong with everyone? Like I don't understand the problem that everyone has with Changpeng Zhao. Like I'm not actually completely understanding. They were the only ones who announced the industry collapsed. It's because of FTX. They didn't have proper disclosure of their funds. Let's make sure that all of our people on our cryptocurrency exchange know exactly how much money we have flowing through Binance. Thank you for the honesty. The industry collapses. Multiple companies fall and they go, we should allocate $1 billion to make sure that we help some companies. Multiple companies failed and they gave them $30 million. And that's the failure of Binance or of these crappy coins and these projects that continue to sprout up that no one's ever going to use. The modest of $30 million was directed to 14 different undisclosed projects and for one purchase, the South Korean cryptocurrency exchange known as GoPax. It says such limited achievements have left industry observers baffled and disappointed. If you are baffled and disappointed that they only allocated $30 million as opposed to the entire $1 billion fund to other crappy cryptocurrency projects, this probably isn't the market for you. You should probably completely reevaluate the entirety of your existence in the cryptocurrency space. The IRI faced additional challenges due to changing regulations. Here we go. Particularly because of the SEC. The emerging operation of Operation Choke Point 2.0 added more uncertainty, forcing the IRI to convert its remaining funds into Bitcoin, BNB, and Ethereum because stablecoins have faced more scrutiny. Did you all get it? Did you get it? The remainder of the amount of money that they did have in the fund, they were basically told by the SEC that because of, it says it even here, growing regulatory concerns, they basically kind of had to like slow down and or stop a large portion of the fund. Because what happens if there is a company who's been around for 3, 4, 5 years within the cryptocurrency space? Binance isn't doing, an extreme amount of digging into the company, but they see that the company's falling or has, they're not doing too well. So Binance then allocates $45 million from their fund to this company to help them out. And then we find out later on that the SEC randomly is suing that company that collapsed and fell because of unregistered securities, because of unregistered derivatives. They were creating stable coins. They were burning stable coins. They had a whole bunch of other operations happening behind the background. Now, that main company gets in trouble because of all the things that the SEC claimed that they were doing. But you know that Binance giving them $45 million also doesn't look good as well, right? So you know that Binance would then also get in trouble for allocating $45 million to that company who collapsed, who they tried to save, who they now own equity, and they now own a portion of this company because that's how business works. And then guess who also continues to get in trouble? So the news is Binance created a recovery fund. They allocated some money to a couple of companies who they thought, could continue to thrive afterwards. And then the rest of the money, they basically, because of regulatory concerns, because of the SEC, had to slow down the fund and or stop it. This news made me sick because everyone was making news articles. I don't have the other ones here. Similar to this, talking about Binance failed, the industry's falling. And I'm like, you people actually have nothing better to do with your time in your life. You would benefit so much from going outside, walking in a forest, like whistle, find some birds, have them land on your arm like a Disney princess. Just do anything else with your time. It's really insane. I don't know what it is either. I think I know, but I can't really put my finger on it. Why some people will make sure that they throw money at these companies who do not care. And that's not saying that Binance cares. I'm not expecting Binance to give you a bear hug if you see them walking down the street. But there are clearly companies who deserve more of a hat tip, hat nod, in their direction, as opposed to others. But yeah, so their initiative that they tried to form was basically broken down by the SEC, and they tried to help out companies, and cool. So Binance is terrible, Changpeng Zhao is awful, and the cryptocurrency space has no way of recovering because it's something's very, very wrong with the mentality of a lot of people in this space right now. I mean, I think it's always been a bit questionable, but the last couple of years has been very, very, very toxic. Isn't even toxic is like toxic is a nice way of saying it. It's completely like, yeah, okay, that's the Binance news. Let's move on. Also in here we go news. The U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Accountability has issued a warning to Gary Gensler, the head of the U.S. SEC, asking him to cooperate or to face disciplinary action. I said it before, and I don't know if it was a joke. I'm pretty sure I told you it was not a joke. People don't like Gary Gensler. I had dinner with a friend last night. Hello, friend. We were discussing the market. We were talking about NFTs and prices and where they are and what coins we want to buy, because prices to us from a financial standpoint look very low. And then we were talking about like Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs and futures and stuff like that. But we were like, Gary Gensler, it's really crazy. Like all the way around the world, Gary Gensler came up in a conversation and we were talking about like kind of like what's wrong with him. And I'll tell you some of the conversation that we were having. And it comes down to something must be going on. I've said before, I've alluded to the fact that, listen, I assume we're all adults here, and we are all in the headspace where we know that corruption exists. So there's a reason why I say, as I've been in the cryptocurrency market for a long while now, and any time that I was not here, I've done research on the other years to kind of get like a generalized, picture of everything that's been happening. And when you look at the actions of the SEC, it's not even questionable. Like, it is, to me, abundantly clear that something is amiss, something's afoot, something's wrong, something's rotten. We were talking about why a lot of things have and have not happened within the US SEC, and also this entire year, the discussion that we had about the lack of a Bitcoin ETF, and the year before and the year before that. And my friend was like, now, once again, this is a conversation me and my friend had. This is not true. This is not real. We were simply speculating on the idea of how the world works. And he was like, do you think he's being paid off? And I was like, I can't say. And then my friend was like, something must be happening behind the scenes where he's being told by someone not to let a Bitcoin ETF through, because it's like, you've seen that other places, without getting too deep into it, you've seen that other places around the world, their countries kind of gave ETFs almost immediately. But then you look in the SEC's direction and you're like, what would cause you for 12 years to not allow a Bitcoin ETF to actually go through? We've heard before that there are people within the SEC's office who also don't like Gary Gensler. Whenever Gary Gensler says something, there are other people from the SEC who come forward and they're like, yeah, we don't agree with him. We have no idea what he's doing or what he's saying. If it was up to us, we would already have a Bitcoin ETF. We would have already allowed an X, Y, and Z to happen within the company. No one in the CFTC likes him. No one in the business world likes him. Apparently, there have been like a lot of recent, there was one a couple weeks ago, like some senatorial hearing where apparently no one there also likes him as well. It has to be something must be going on when no one likes you. Either he's trying to, play hardball for over a decade. He hasn't been there for over a decade, but like you get what I'm saying. And he's trying to, show force so that he can, maybe become president one day. But if no one likes you, it's just not going to work out. I'm not really understanding. So anyway, he recently received something from the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, where they're asking him to like, hey, can you please cooperate with us because you are not doing so. In a letter addressed to Gensler, James Comer, chairman of the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, has emphasized the need for Gensler's full cooperation. The letter said that the committee would consider using the compulsory process if Gensler did not start cooperating, because apparently he has not. He said, I expect nothing less than full cooperation with our inquiry, which begins with the SEC providing documents actually responsive to our request. And it says somewhere around here, apparently they've been trying to work in Europe. Comer referred to these initiatives as disguised disclosure and due diligence directives crafted by the European Union. Comer accused Gensler of neglecting his obligation to collaborate with the congressional committees, claiming that the SEC chair has been obstructing and has continued to obstruct congressional oversight. They've apparently been trying to get in contact with him for 4 months to get something done, and he has not done it. That's why I said before, like, who regulates the regulators? Because the word's not even unhinged. I can't imagine a world how this person is still working in that office. If no one likes you anywhere, how can he not be fired? How can he not be replaced in some sort of way? This was relatively large news. It had to do with Gary Gensler. It had to do with some type of regulatory something where we basically get another window into the fact that the SEC has once again been non-compliant in everything that they've been doing. It's not just me, right? Something weird is going on. I mean, the last 3 years have also been incredibly weird in general. But something's afoot. Someone's being paid. Someone's being told by someone. My friend was like, how unsurprised would you be if BlackRock told Gary Gensler for all these years, like, you're not allowing any ETFs through until we can accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible? And I was like, that also sounds believable. I could totally see something like that happening, but Something very odd is taking place. I will never know what it is. I'm not important enough to sit in any of those meetings, but very weird times indeed. I do sincerely hope that you've all enjoyed. Sorry if my nose sounded stuffed at any point. I'm still getting over this whatever I have. It's not Coco Roro. No, it's not. It's just a normal cold, but it's just weird because I never usually get colds, and I'm like a little annoyed that I have one. I don't party. I don't go out. I don't do crazy things. I usually just sit in a cafe with a friend having, tea and cake, and that's as far as I get. So somebody in that cafe was very rude. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, going broad and going deep. Terrible. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.